الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يتساءلون عن النبع العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون. صلوات بيجي محمد وآل محمد. Before I begin, a request for Amma Yujib Dua Sihat for all of those who are sick and in need of dua, especially Abbas Mulidina. Let's remember him in this Dua Sihat as well. All together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى. Also remember those who are the sponsors, their marhumin as well as your marhumin with the Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على. As promised, alhamdulillah, inshallah, we'll be starting with the Tafsir of Sura Naba'a, the 30th juz of Quran, which begins with this chapter number 78 from the Holy Quran. It has 40 verses in it. The surah is amongst the surahs that begin with this questioning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts, Amma yatasa'alun. And literally, the word Amma, if you open it up, it is actually An Ma. So if you put together An Ma, you get what? Amma. And one is from, and then Ma is which? From which? Yatasa'alun. It is that they are questioning one another. So this surah, amongst these surahs where the fadilah that I had mentioned yesterday, amongst the fadail of recitation of this surah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the person who recites it continuously before the end of the year, that person will be able to visit the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now what is the connection? I don't know. There's a hadith from the Holy Prophet where he mentions this. Definitely there are effects of the recitation of different verses of Quran. Why do you think we recited this ayat from Surah Namal together? Ayat number 62 from the Surah Namal, making this dua, Amma yujibu mustarra. We just recited that based on the fact that with the recitation of this dua, those who are sick and those who are in need, inshallah, they will find well-being. And with that aqeedah, we go ahead and make this dua. Similarly, there are these things which are in relation to our aqaid. The aqeedah says that Prophet of Islam, when he narrated this hadith, when he spoke about the importance of recitation of the surah, he mentioned this. He said the one who recites it, although they were living in Medina maybe at that time, or when the surah was revealed, it was revealed in Mecca, and then when they were living in Medina, Prophet said, well, recite this often, you will get to visit the house of Allah before the end of the year. But that does not mean that this mercy does not extend out to people like you and I. So definitely it is there. Another thing which is mentioned in Majma'ul Bayan from the Holy Prophet, it says, Man qara'a amma yatasa'alun. Whoever recites this surah, saqahu Allahu barda sharab yawm al-Qiyamah. He will be amongst the recipient of that drink that is reserved for the elites. And that drink is the cool and the pleasant drink, which is mentioned in Quran as sharaban tahura, the pure drink, the purest of the drinks. So the one who recites it will be amongst the recipient of that tomorrow. And then lastly, the hadith from our Prophet, he said, Ya Rasulullah, أسرع إليك الشيب. O Prophet, the person asked him, Ibn Abbas asked him, O Prophet, what made you weak and old all of a sudden? You know how sometimes people go through difficult time in their lives, and they may go through some challenges, and then even if it's only a couple of years, but then you can see and you can tell that that person has really aged in these couple of years. You were younger, and I'll give you an example of that. Our fourth Imam, he went to Karbala in the year, it was 60 after Hijrah when they left Medina, and then he came back in the 61st year after Hijrah. So it was a matter of maybe 7-8 months that they left Medina, they arrived in Mecca, they went to Karbala, and then they came back from Karbala. So in the matter of 6-7 months, 8 months, when he came back, when Muhammad Hanafiya saw him, he could not recognize him. He said, "This is you? I could not recognize you, my nephew. That you have gone, you become so old, it seems." He said, "Yes, the thing that I went through, the things that I saw, Karbala made me old, for example. Because of the unpleasant, incidents that took place, I've become old. I've aged, rather quickly." So people ask Prophet, "Oh Prophet, why did you age so quickly? How did you become so old all of a sudden?" Prophet responded by saying, "Qala shayyabatni Hud wal-waqi'a wal-mursalat wa amma yatasa'alun." He said, 4 chapters in Quran made me old, made me weak, because they took a toll on me as far as the matalib and the references that are mentioned in those surahs. What are those 4 surahs? Surah Hud is one of them, Surah Waqi'a is one of them, Surah Mursalat, and Surah Amma Yatasa'alun. Because of what is mentioned in these surahs, and inshallah we will cover what is mentioned in Surah Naba'a, that will tell you that how it affected the Holy Prophet, that physically speaking he had become older in age when people looked upon him. So there are 40 verses in this chapter. It was revealed in Makkah, and the name of the surah is taken from the second ayah, which is Anin Naba'il Azeem, the word Naba, which means great news or the tidings. This is where a discussion is that some verses in this chapter provide, so the overall view, if you want to look at, what is this surah talks about? In just the entire chapter, 40 ayat, what are they talking about? Now there are different discussions, but in a gist, if you want to put it together, you see that some verses in this chapter provide evidence about the nature's governing system, which is based on the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, announcement about Qiyamah, and which is necessary for the implementation of reward and the punishment. So the entire discussion about Qiyamah and how it plays a role in jaza and saza, and then how that human beings aren't created in vain. Their creation has a purpose, and there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought them into this world. And some of the verses in the chapter highlight the severe punishment of the rebellious groups, as well as the favors upon the people of paradise, which seems like an overall theme in all of these chapters in the last juz of Quran. So if you look at all of these chapters in the 30th juz of Quran, primarily the theme is a picture from, the Qiyamah, whether it be from heaven or the hell, primarily from hell and all the punishments and the severe punishments that are associated with those who will be thrown into hell. So sort of like scary picture which is given in these last few chapters of the Holy Quran. So we'll begin with the first ayah, which is Amma Yatasa'alun. What is it that they are questioning? Yatasa'ul literally comes from when 2 people are talking. Taqabul. Tafa'ul, when you have muqabala, it is between 2 people. So therefore, yatasa'al is between 2 people. When 2 people are going back and forth, questioning about something. What was it that they were questioning? What was it that they were asking? Now, there are different things that could be said. Was it amongst the kuffar themselves that they were questioning? Were they asking the mu'mineen and the muslimin? Were they asking the Holy Prophet? If they're both questioning, that means it is not between Muslims and the kuffar. It is probably amongst themselves, because one questions and the other one questions as well, and they have no clue about what it is that they are referencing to. Amma yatasa'alun. They had some ideas, because Muslims and mu'mineen and Rasulullah, when this Quran has brought some new ideas to them, and they were questioning those ideas. amongst themselves. They were going back and forth. What is it? Is it really true? We've never heard of such a thing. And, so they were going back and forth in regards to this. For example, you give a topic to someone who doesn't have any idea about it, and then they will be questioning one another about it. And they'll be giving their own opinions in regards to it. So the word naba, which means news, but you can't really translate it as news because khabar means news, right? Khabar, which is the plural of it, is akhbar. And in our countries, we call newspaper akhbar. So khabar means news. Naba also is translated as news, but it is not just ordinary news. It is an important news. That's why the word Azeem is associated with it in this ayah. Anin Naba'il Azeem. Great news, or great tiding. What is this great news? News from the unseen. News which is, people never heard of it before. News which is mind-blowing to them, which baffles them. They can't understand or fathom or comprehend what is being said. Something which is so great that they have never heard before. And who's the bearer of this news? A person by the name Nabi. So Nabi, when he brings Naba, it is that news which is being brought by this Nabi. Therefore, it is an important subject. It is an important topic. It's not just an ordinary news that you hear, this happened there or that happened there. So this is where we see that it is Naba'ul Azeem, describing the tiding, which according to one opinion, refers to day of resurrection. So the most common explanation of what is this Naba'il Azeem, that these kuffar are questioning one another. What could it be? It is mentioned that the main talk or the main opinion amongst the Mufassirin, or the unanimous opinion amongst the Mufassirin, is that it is talking about the day of resurrection. As tremendous, Azeem demonstrates the important place that belief in the resurrection has in a person's spiritual development. So when you look at the concept of resurrection, the concept of Qiyamah, right away it brings what? It brings responsibilities. It brings sense of responsibility towards something that is about to happen. Otherwise, an atheist has a view that there's nothing to happen tomorrow. I die, I get buried in this land, and that would be end of the world. Nothing is happening. There's no wujud of God. All this is, asatirul awwaleen, fairy tale, and nothing of this is true. And therefore, he will not have any accountability on his part. Yes, he may be a good person going around, meeting with people, taking care of his, duties in this world. But when it comes to his duties toward the akhirat, he will be reckless, nothing to worry about. God, nothing will happen because there's no tomorrow. So believe that resurrection causes a person to vigilantly observe their own behavior. So when we believe in the hereafter, we are what? Observant of our own behaviors. This is where muraqabah comes in. That we are watching over ourselves, lest we do something which is contradictory to what God demanded from us. As not everyone can otherwise experience the fear of standing before their Lord. So because the ayat of Quran mention that there is resurrection and you'll be standing before your Lord, not everybody has the ability to stand, especially when you're going without any deeds along with you. So therefore, you want to bring something. As Surah Nazi'at says, but as for him who is awed to stand before his Lord and restrains his soul from following desire. So the fact that we believe in the hereafter, we will have this vigilant, we will have this, concept of, securing ourselves so that we're able to stand up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tomorrow. Some Mufassirin believe that the word Naba'ul Azeem means Quran itself. That this Quran is a news that Prophet has brought. So this news itself is talking about Naba'ul Azeem. That what are they speaking about? What are they talking about? What is their queries? They're speaking to each other and they're questioning one another about what? About this Quran. That this Quran that Prophet has brought. This Quran which has great news in it. This Quran which talks about amazing, features of this world that they have never heard of, or even about the hereafter, or about the galaxies, or about, different things that these people at that time at least had no idea is existing or exist in the world. So this Quran itself is what? It's Naba'ul Azeem. It's a great news. It's filled with all of these great news. So with all the information that it contains, mushrikeen of Makkah refused to believe it. So their first thing was what? We don't believe in this. This is not, anything which beyond our understanding, or this is not something, this is probably something that you produce yourself. So right away they showed Rasulullah could not have produced something like this, because he showed himself to be, illiterate to the people. And they believed in it, that Prophet did not know how to read or write, because he never attended any institution where he would go learn how to read and write, not knowing that he has brought all the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from ilmi ladun. But that was something that they still had to believe in. So with that belief that Prophet could not produce it, where did he come up with this stuff? And then it's so astonishing. Right away, it grabs their attention. So this has to be something. So initially they refused it, although it challenged them to bring forth a book like this. Secondly, even amongst the Muslims. So forget about the kuffar. At one place, kuffar are refusing this book, as this is Naba'a al-Azeem. This is a great this is a great news that we don't know about it. All the things that it is talking about. On a second level, Muslimin are also in disagreement with what this Quran has to say to us. What this Quran is delivering the news to us. The things that are mentioned in this Quran, many of the Muslims, different sects, they disagree as to what it is, mentioning, or what it is talking about, what it is denoting, what is the proof and the evidence that it is talking about this particular thing. So amongst the Muslimin, you will find contradictions as well, as far as how to recite it and as far as how to interpret it. For example, the recitation of Quran, there are different qurra and the different recitations that exist. For example, some will recite it, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Maliki Yawmiddin. Others would recite it, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Maliki Yawmiddin. They're different qira'at. And one believes that one is correct, the other one believes that the other one is correct. And they refute the other's recitation. And this is just one small example. And these sort of examples exist throughout of Quran, where sometimes even the verb changes from, singular to a plural, depending on how they read it and how they perceived it to be. So all these differences exist as far as the recitation of Quran is concerned. So it is possible amongst the Muslims that this Naba'a al-Azeem amma yatasa'alun, that they are questioning one another regarding this book as far as its recitation is concerned. And then more importantly, as far as the interpretation is concerned. There's no doubt about the fact that they differentiate amongst themselves that what it means here and what it means there. Or the single ayah, how they both perceive it differently. I'll give you a few examples. First, ayat of wudu, Surah Ma'idah, verse number 6. Someone asks you, how do you know how to perform wudu? You say, well, chapter 5, Surah Ma'idah, verse number 6. That entire ayah talks about performing wudu. That ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila salat faghsilu wujuhakum. O those who believe, when you stand up for salat, wash your faces and wash your hands. Ila marafiq, towards up until your elbows. Wamsahu bi ru'usikum, and then wipe over your heads, wa arjulikum, and over your feet. That is the entire wudu which is mentioned in ayat number 6 of chapter number 5. But the difference is, you go ahead and see in different sects of Islam, you go see how brothers of Ahl Sunnah, they perform wudu. You see how we perform wudu. There's a drastic difference. They're washing as opposed to wiping. We're wiping as opposed to washing. We believe our method is correct. They believe their method is correct. So there are two different ways of performing wudu within this Islam. And in regards to this ayat, which is ayat of wudu, so therefore Muslimin amongst themselves have differences. Another example of difference would be ayat of fasting. Surah Baqarah 187. We recited this ayah a couple of nights ago, where it talks about how do you break your fast, or when do you break your fast. وَأَتُمَّ أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Now break your fast when it's night. That's all it says. When you will be able to differentiate, khaytul aswad and khaytul abyaz, the thread, which is white thread, and the black thread, if you're able to see it. But at least the word says, ila layl. Finish your fast when it's night. Now you ask anyone, non-Muslim even, what is night? Is it sunset night, or night is when it's dark? They'll definitely say that night means dark. Nobody will call sunset to be night, because sunset, when the disk has disappeared, you still have a lot of light. And light contradicts night. When night is something when it is dark, when darkness has prevailed. And that's why we delay after sunset about 12 to 15 minutes so that, the redness passes over our head and it becomes dark. That is one of the proofs. But they say, well, where do you think that this word layl or this layl refers towards night? It is, sunset is the beginning of the night. That's their point about it. Sunset is the beginning of the night. So all you have to fast is up until it's night, whether it's the beginning part of it or the middle part of it. So from their aspect, they say, well, the beginning of the night is as soon as it's sunset. From our aspect, it is when it is dark, because that's what you call night. So there's a difference between the two sides. Or for example, ayat tathir or ayat balligh, all of these different verses of Quran, that you will find differences between amongst the Muslims as well. So Naba'a Azeem is this Quran, one of the opinions is, because amma yatasa'alun, they are questioning one another about what's in this book. Some believe that Naba'a Azeem, which people have conflict, is in Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. So the announcement at Ghadir wasn't enough. When Prophet said, Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla, where ayat of Quran was revealed, and later on one of the misdaq of this ayat, Naba'a al-Azeem, as mentioned by the Holy Prophet in his own kalam, and I'll mention the ahadith from the sources of Ahl Sunnah as well, that Naba'a Azeem is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because he is the one about whom they what? They are in dispute. That after the wafat of Rasulullah, up until Rasulullah is alive, there's no dispute. But right after the wafat of Rasulullah, there's a dispute. So what do they have? Hum fihe mukhtalifun. What do they dispute about? Amir al-Mu'mineen. So one of their traditions is from the Holy Prophet. He said, Ali alayhi salam, Ya Ali, anta hujjatullahi wa anta babullah. O Ali, you're the proof of Allah. You're the door towards Allah. Wa anta tariqu ilallah. You're the path towards Allah. Wa anta naba'ul azim. And O Ali, you are that great news. Wa anta siratul mustaqim. And you are the straight path. And then there's a dua which you recite in the prayer on the day of Ghadir. So when we have the amal of Ghadir, there's a prayer that we perform. There's a dua at that time. In which dua would you recite? It is from our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. Imam says, Shahidna, we bear witness, bimannika wa lutfika, with your favors and your grace, bi'annaka antallah, that the fact that you are Allah, and there's no God except you, you're our Lord. Wa Muhammadun abduka wa rasuluk, and Prophet is, Muhammad is your abd and your Rasul. Nabiyuna, he's our Prophet. Wa aliyun amirul mu'mineen, wa hujjatul uzma, wa ayatukal kubra, wa naba'ul azim. And in reference to Amirul Mu'mineen, who's, biggest, one of the biggest proofs, hujjatul uzma, ayatukal kubra, he's a great ayat of yours, and naba'ul azim. He's a great news. So this is again in that dua. And also, every day we recite this dua during the nights of Ramadan, which is dua iftitah. In the segment which you recite about Amirul Mu'mineen, this is what you say. Allahumma wa salli ala aliyin Amirul Mu'mineen, wasiyya Rasul Rabbil Alameen, abdika wa waliyyika wa akhi rasulika wa hujjatika ala khalqik wa ayatika al-kubra wa naba'il azim. So every day, every night when we recite this dua iftitah, we call upon Amirul Mu'mineen to be that Naba'ul Azim. So one of the opinions of the Mufassirin is that Naba'a Azeem is actually a mention, is reference to Amirul Mu'mineen, because after the wafat of Rasulullah, there was ikhtilafat, there were disputes over the khilafat and the wilayat, and therefore this is the individual upon whom they had differences. So that's Amirul Mu'mineen. But also, Naba'ul Azeem is in reference to the wilayat in general. Wilayat of Ma'asumeen in general. It says, wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen, which they differed. They said, well, he was, when Rasulullah said, Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla. The word mawla over here means friend. They did not take the word mawla in the reference of having authority over you, someone who has authority over you. So the word wali means someone who's authoritative, or someone who has authority over you. Similar authority that has been bestowed on Rasulullah. That continuation. two riwayat in this reference, both from the Sunni sources. First narration is from Hafiz Muhammad ibn Mu'min Shirazi. From the scholars of Ahl Sunnah, he said the Prophet in the Tafsir of Amma Yatasa'alun said, it refers to the wilayat of Ali, which would be questioned in the grave. The angels will come in after the death of an individual to his grave, and they will ask him the three questions. What's your deen? Who is your prophet? And who is your imam? Deen, you will mention if it's Islam. Prophet, you will mention if it's prophet. And then lastly, they'll say, who's your imam? It has to be, the answer has to be Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat bi Muhammad. And second reference to this is in the Battle of Siffin. In the Battle of Siffin, when the Quran was raised and the battle ended that way, the army of Sham, one of the persons came out while carrying Quran in his hand or on the spear. And then he was reciting what? This surah. Amma yatasa'alun anin naba'il al-Azeem. Amir al-Mu'mineen himself came out. He said, hold on a second. This surah that you are reciting, and Imam asked him a question like this. Ata'arifun naba'ul azim alladhi hum fihi mukhtalifun. Do you know what this naba'ul azim is that you are reciting in this surah? He responded by saying, Ana wallahi, I don't know what it means. He said, Ana wallahi an-naba'ul azim. Imam himself said, I am that naba'ul azim which you are disputing about. Fihi ikhtalaftum ala wilayatihi tanaza'tum. Upon whose wilayat you have had this dispute. Wa an wilayati raja'tum ba'da ma qabiltum. And you return from my wilayat after you had accepted. Wa yawmul qiyamah ta'lamuna ma alimtum. And on the day of judgment you will find out what did you do? Alladhi hum fihi mukhtalifun. Because towards the end of it, it says, Kalla saya'lamun. Surely, soon enough, these people will find out. Thumma kalla sofa ta'lamun. And indeed, they will definitely find out. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ala Muhammad. I've run out of my time, but there were a few other things that I wanted to cover. Inshallah, we'll move forward with this Tafsir of Sura Naba'a. We covered a few verses from the beginning, but there was another thing that I wanted to highlight, and that was going to come later on in my talk, but unfortunately I couldn't get to, is the fact that what is happening around the globe. We have to be mindful of what is happening, and we need to make sure that we are doing something toward it. And that's why the Prophet said, whoever wakes up in the morning, man asbaha, and who is not worried about the affairs of Muslims, laysa bi Muslim. That person himself is not a Muslim. And therefore, when you look at the plight of Shias, especially in Pakistan, how there's a campaign going on and how they're missing Shia persons in Karachi and now in other cities as well. While those families had come out in protest, now they're being arrested. They're being dispersed, obviously, so that they do not gather around in these official places. Again, it is something which we all need to make sure that we do something about it. What can we do from over here? There are many things. You can contact the Embassy of Pakistan, make your protest be recorded over there, tell them what should be done or what is happening, at least bring some sort of awareness. Also, you can contact your local congressman as well, or congresswoman, and the senators to bring it to their attention as well, that this is something which is happening globally, but it is not getting any media attention. So this is the minimum that all of us can do as far as our part is concerned. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.